Since the beginning of the space era in 1957, tons of rockets, spaceships, and satellites have been launched into the space, and at least initially, no one foresaw what to do with them at the end of their useful life. Now, the European Space Agency, which is the ESA, it estimates that there are somewhat about 9 lakh objects over 1 centimeter in size that have no use orbiting around the Earth. Now, this fact, according to the UN, endangers future missions and even terrestrial communications. Now, since humans have begun to explore space, they have also begun to litter it. In our planet's orbit are hundreds of inactive satellites and thousands of fragments from the rockets that have been launched in our short but frantic space race, as well as debris from collisions. Now, this situation is a real danger today because both for terrestrial and telecommunications and for ongoing missions. Now, talking about what is space debris, space waste basically encompasses any piece of debris which is left behind by humans in space and therefore originating on Earth. Space debris can be as large as an inactive satellite, similar to the size of a car, or as small as a flake of paint. Now, the real danger is the speed at which these objects move, more than 28,000 kilometers per hour, which turn them into real projectiles. Now, according to the ESA, space debris are of 3 types. First is payload, which is mainly satellites. These include fragments produced by wear and tear and collisions. Second is rocket, which are remains of stages used to propel missions in orbit. This usually includes fragments produced by wear and tear and collisions. Third is mission-related objects, which are, for example, drop tools, screws, cables, cameras, etc. Now, what causes space debris? So, first of all, we have defunct satellites. So, satellites have a very limited useful life, and when their batteries are spent or they're broken down, they're left drifting about in space. Now, at the beginning of the space race, it was assumed that sooner or later, these abandoned objects would fall to Earth and would burn up on re-entry. However, and particularly at higher orbits, this may never happen. Second, we have missing equipment, which are astronauts sometimes drop tools or other objects during spacewalks. So in 2008, for example, astronaut Hidmari, he dropped a box of tools. So this disintegrated when it entered Earth's atmosphere almost a year later, after orbiting the Earth more than 4,000 times. Third, we have rocket stages, which are so basically some rocket stages that are discarded in low orbits and fall to the Earth shortly after takeoff. However, the higher ones are left drifting in space and sometimes explode because they contain the remains of fuel. Now, these explosions create thousands of fragments. Fourth, we have weapons. So both the United States and the Soviet Union began to conduct tests with anti-satellite weapons in the 60s and the 70s. So in 1985, for example, the United States destroyed a 1-ton satellite with one of these weapons. So similar missions of this type were carried out in later years by countries including China and India. So there are certain consequences of space debris. So according to the ESA, since 1961, there has been more than 560 fragments incidents, most of them caused by fuel explosions and rocket stages. And as for direct collisions, there have been 7, the most serious of which destroyed an inactive Russian satellite called Cosmos 2251 and the operational satellite Iridium 33. However, it is the small fragments that poses the greatest danger. So micrometeorites like paint flakes and solidified droplets of antifreeze can damage solar panels on active satellites. Other dangerous debris includes vestiges of solid fuel which float about in space and are highly flammable. So they can cause damage and disperse pollutants into the atmosphere if they explode. Since space debris pose a significant risk to both active satellites and spacecraft as well as to humans and human space missions, therefore it is very important to manage and monitor space debris to prevent collision and mitigate potential damage. Thank you.